want to thank everyone for coming out today. We're here to talk about an issue that is incredibly important to the constituents that I represent, and that is energy independence. And as you know, you're looking at the prices on the gas pumps. You'll notice that they have skyrocketed over the last year. In fact, this is a chart that shows from the beginning of the Biden administration how it has gone all the way up to the national average, which is it's $3.83. Here in New York, the average is $4 a gallon, and the average in the state of California is $5. So I wanted to take a moment to talk about energy independence and how incredibly important it is that we ramp up energy production here in our country. We have the capability to do so and could provide immediate relief for families. I have colleagues who are in Texas, North Dakota, Oklahoma, who are saying that on their land they're able to extract more oil and gas, and we should be looking at opportunities to increase the supply. And what's occurring right now with Russia's inhumane invasion of Ukraine is even going to further pressure Americans who right now, by the way, as we import hundreds of thousands of barrels of oil from Russia, are funding this horrific invasion of Ukraine. So on first day of the Biden administration, he launched a war on American energy by canceling the Keystone XL pipeline. This is not just canceling our pipeline. He actually also rubber stamped the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. So think about that. Stopping a mechanism to import more natural gas and transport it from Canada, and instead giving Russia the opportunity to do it, but not us. Then he also suspended all oil and gas leasing on federal lands. He also paused all new oil and gas leases as of February, and he went on to lift all sanctions imposed against Russia's Nord Stream 2 pipeline. However, he has since implemented that after we've called for that when the war began. In addition to that, President Biden's budget request explicitly opposed funding the construction or maintenance of projects that would lower the cost of gas, diesel, or energy derived from fossil fuels. So here we are seeing the results of these actions that President Biden took in the first days of his administration. Electricity has gone up 20% since January 2021. Gas is up over 16% since January 2021. The national average for gasoline, as I mentioned, is over $3.84 a gallon. That's over 33% increase from 1 year ago, and crude oil is now peaked to $116 per barrel. Here in New York, Governor Cuomo closing the Indian Point nuclear power plant has also contributed to the rising electricity costs that New Yorkers are facing today. Now, this week, House Democrats blocked consideration of the American Energy Independence from Russia Act offered by House Republicans. What we want is energy independence, because if you look at what's happening in Europe, energy independence is national security. So we need to make sure that we are ramping up production of energy here in the United States. We need to become self-sufficient, and it is a matter of our national security, and it's a matter of economics for American families. Now, if you look at what's occurring in Europe, because I know some of my colleagues talk about the Green New Deal and climate change, and that is exactly what Europe was doing. Europe was closing nuclear power plants. They were eliminating oil and gas. They were moving in the space of being green. Now, I am for clean energy. I am for renewable energy. And my record as a state legislator will prove that. That's not the issue here. The issue is that we We cannot be excluding and canceling oil and gas and traditional sources of energy. We need diversification. If we are going to be energy independent in this country and not rely on adversaries like Russia, we need to be energy independent. It's no cleaner to be importing hundreds of thousands of barrels of oil from Russia. In fact, Russian oil is much dirtier than what we would be producing here in the United States. And in addition to that, we're seeing the transportation costs. So it actually makes no sense that we would seize oil and gas production in our country that would ease the burden on American families, that would provide good paying jobs for Americans, and that would improve our national security. So these are the things that we would like to see. We would like to see the Biden administration lift his executive orders and restart the construction of the Keystone Pipeline. We want to end the federal freeze on all new oil and gas projects. We want to fast track the pending liquefied natural gas export permits so we are able to assist Ukrainians and our allies in their energy shortages right now. We would like to stop the regulatory assault on United States energy development. Yes, we can have clean energy, but we also need oil and gas. And we want to expedite the approval of all domestic pipeline and energy development projects to allow exploration and production. The Keystone Pipeline alone, we're talking about 830 barrels of oil a day. That is hundreds, thousands of more barrels than we are currently importing from Russia. Now, I want to get back to the impact this is having, because this is the real reason why we're here. It is about national security, but it's also about the pocketbooks of everyday Americans. They are getting crushed right now. They can't afford to fill their gas tanks to get to work. They can't afford to heat their homes. They are struggling when they go to the grocery store because the costs of foods have skyrocketed. Why? Well, because of production, lack of production. Okay. Our president disincentivized people returning to the workforce, and now we're paying the price for that. But also because of the transportation costs to transport these goods. So at every turn, American families are paying more, and they can't do it anymore. I want to bring up one of our local small businesses who actually owns a grocery store here on Staten Island. So he can tell you a little bit about what he is seeing each and every day. Not just how his small business is struggling. He showed me his energy bills and
so the price goes down. Stop the war.
Sure.
So there hasn't been any limits on Russian oil put yet. But I spoke to AAA this morning, and they said that it's a globally priced commodity, and so trying to flood the market with crude oil from the United States really won't move that much to impact the price.
But it would. If you have more supply, it would. Like, that's the thing. The thing is this. It's about, number one, supply. But let's just say we stop importing, if we decide to stop importing from Russia, okay, because Americans don't want to fund this war.
But those are two different things.
No, it's not.
Just about the supply first. You're saying increase.
I mean, supply and demand. If you increase more barrels, it would reduce the cost, right? So, but the thing is that we have to do both. We can't just do one, okay? We need to do both. And it's about our energy security for the future. If we are producing more barrels domestically, the costs would go down. Look at the costs going up when we stopped domestic production. I mean, it's evident in the numbers. So, you know, it's
I'm just playing the advocate.
Yeah, I know,
but saying that
yeah.
you can't, you know, there just wouldn't be enough to flood in at this point to really change things.
Well, it would cause it. This is the problem. If we never stopped it, we would be in a better position today. Right now, President Biden, instead of opening up domestic production, okay, and extracting more so that way we are better off for the future? Are we going to just do nothing and then continue to rely on Russian oil and oil of our adversaries? I mean, there was a point not too long ago where we were exporting to other countries, okay? And now we're in a position where we're not self-sufficient, and it's a real problem. And this is only going to worsen if we don't change course.
Congresswoman,
Can I
what will it take? Well, we
Yeah,
need
let
you.
me
We
do the
need you to
questions.
answer a couple of things. What will it take to open up this Keystone Pipeline, in your estimation?
What does it take? It takes for the President of the United States to lift his executive order that stopped it. That's the number one thing. That's what's holding it back.
Is it possible?
You know, that's a question for the White House. I mean, this is the thing. Unfortunately, there are those in this country who feel that we should have no oil and gas. And that's just not reality. Okay? These are the same people, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who I see in not one, but two gas-guzzling SUVs, where she can't walk 2 blocks to go vote from her office to the Capitol. She's taking 2 gas-guzzling SUVs. Nancy Pelosi flying on private jets. So let's stop the hypocrisy and let's get to reality. And the reality is that we live in a world where we're going to need to consume oil and gas. We need diversification of energy. Okay, I'm, again, for renewable energy. I'm for clean energy. We should continue to pursue energy innovation. But at the end of the day, to say that we're not going to use gas and oil is just not realistic. And that is exactly what Europe is seeing right now. They did this already. They've had this experiment. And now they're importing 40% of their natural gas from Russia. Okay, so the same thing here in the United States. It's not that we're not using oil and gas, it's that we're importing from our adversaries. So why would we not take advantage of our domestic energy opportunity and potential so we can be self-sufficient, so we can protect our nation, so we can protect consumers, so we can lower costs for American families who are struggling as a result of executive orders and bans that President Biden put in place a year ago. This is David Shahada from Olive Marketplace Tree.
Hello, David Shahada from Olive Tree Marketplace. It's thank you, Nicole. It's been very difficult to operate a business and live today's life. You know, going through the pandemic and now going through the energy prices going through the roof. My electric bills doubled from the previous month, and and also my gas bills has doubled. So it's been very difficult to operate a business and keep my doors open. If this keeps on going on, it's going to be very, very difficult. Right now, there's deliveries. I'm being charged an additional gas surcharge on the bottom of my deliveries. So again, it's very difficult to operate a business like this. And you know, we hope and we thank Nicole for you know, making this an issue, because it's going to become a bigger issue. So let's keep our energy costs down, because right now a lot of people are closing their doors, and it's very sad. It's a very sad time. Thank you.
So one last thing I want to add is that the president talked about releasing barrels of oil from our reserve, 60 million barrels, which is just probably, it's about 3 days worth of oil. This is also a very dangerous thing. The fact that he continues to raid the national reserves and is not doing anything to backfill it. Okay, this was full when he became president, and now you're seeing it dwindle. And that's supposed to be used for emergency situations. So I would caution the president against using these reserves unless he's going to do something about backfilling and ensuring that we continue to have that in place. Because, you know, who knows what's going to happen. And if the situation gets worse with Russia and Ukraine, we find ourselves, you know, World War III, God forbid, we're going to be in big trouble. And so my concern is that what he's doing right now is very irresponsible and it's dangerous. And so we need to, again, you can go into the reserves if you're going to be backfilling it and producing it. But he's not taking any steps to do that right now, and that concerns me. Nicole, would you like to say a few words? Michael is a friend of mine who is from the Ukraine, and we've been talking a lot over the last couple of days on how we could put pressure on Putin. And certainly not importing oil, hundreds of thousands of oils that is giving him billions of dollars is one way that we could be doing that. I've called on these sanctions, and I'm happy with some of the things that President Biden has done. Some of those things I've called for, removing Russia from SWIFT banking system, sanctioning the Russian central bank, sanctioning some of the other industries, going after Putin himself with sanctions, and the oligarchs. The oligarchs now are trying to put pressure for peace. We're seeing the people in Russia start to come out in support of Ukraine. They don't want a war either, but there's disinformation campaigns, unfortunately, and he's cutting off people from the media. So what I will just say is one other thing that we need to be looking at is stopping to buy oil, stopping the purchase of oil from Russia, and I would love for Michael just to say a few words. It's very personal to him.
Hi, my name is Michael. I was born in Russia. I was an officer in the Soviet army. I moved here. I have 4 children. They were born here. My older daughter served in the Navy, and I'm a New Yorker with Russian accent, and I'm 100% New Yorker. I have two very simple points. Number one, we take a look at the budget of Russia and how much of that budget is oil, and you will understand how many missiles we sponsor that hitting Ukraine. This thug is raping that country, and we are financing. Us in Europe buying oil from him, we are financing this rape. And we are not just we are spectators of that. And we are not spectators, we are sponsoring it. And number two, it's very childish. When we use all this oil, it's very childish to think that, oh, that oil is produced somewhere there. It's outsourcing of guilt. We say, okay, we are not producing anymore, we are clean. But we live on the same earth, and we are outsourcing our guilt, and today's policy is we are very clean. But no, these countries are producing oil with much lower standards, and we can produce here with much better quality and much cleaner. So why do we outsource this guilt? So today's policy should not be persevered, it should be pivoted. And my vote will be for someone, I'm very a politic person. I don't care. So whomever will be pivoting today's policy will get my vote. Thank you.
Very well said. I just want to wrap up with allowing my colleagues to say a few words. We have Councilman David Carr.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Very glad to be here with you today. Really appreciate putting a focus on this incredibly important issue. The reality is that inflation has always been a secret tax and it's the most aggressive tax at all because it hits the people hardest who can afford it the least. And nothing impacts that more than the price of energy. The price of energy is volatile today because we have not been doing our part in this country to produce it. It makes us more reliant on foreign energy sources, and it makes us more susceptible to spikes in the cost of energy when there's conflicts and strife around the world. And this crisis is going to persist. People are going to be paying more at the pump. People are going to be paying more for their home energy bills as long as we refuse to do our part and produce the oil and natural gas that we have here in this country. It may not have an effect on the price of oil today or tomorrow, but it will over the long term. And it'll make us more secure as events around the world transpire that may affect the price of energy in places that don't have the option to produce domestically like we do. And that's why it's so important for us to be highlighting this issue. I appreciate the Congresswoman for her leadership, and I hope that President Biden and those in leadership in Washington start listening and start implementing common sense energy policies that help keep the price of energy affordable for all Americans and Staten Islanders. And I'm going to now introduce my colleague here in the East Shore, Assemblyman Michael Tanusis.
Thank you very much. Thank you to Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis for putting together this press conference to talk about this very important issue. I'm a newlywed. I've been married about 2 years. I'm a lifelong Staten Islander. I am trying to build a family here on Staten Island and a life for myself and my wife. And we are at a point where we live in one of the most expensive cities in the country. And at this point, New York City, Staten Island have become unbearable. gas prices have gone through the roof. Our utility bills have gone through the roof. There have been missteps on the state level from Governor Cuomo, former Governor Cuomo, from the president that have not helped the situation and have increased the cost of living. So we are here to call on our federal and state government to implement common sense energy policies that will make New York City and the United States more affordable places to live. With that being said, I'd like to thank the Congresswoman for having me here today. Thank you. And I'd like to introduce my colleague from the South Shore, Assemblyman Mike Riley.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Congresswoman Malliotakis, for hosting this and taking this issue head on. You know, it's pretty ironic that as we were standing here, I don't know if everybody caught that before, there was a song playing in the background. How's it gonna show he loves me? Think about that. You know how he loves you? The song was playing. The prices behind us were rising as that song was playing. They were changing the price. It went up 20 cents since we've been standing here. It doesn't get more grim than that. We're sitting here talking about this, and the prices are going up. This is what's impacting our lives, Staten Island especially. We don't have public options for commuting as the other boroughs, the other areas. We depend on cars. What are we doing to our community? This is the issue. This is what it's costing us. We can't put food on the table sometimes. We're losing jobs. Keystone Pipeline. My son's in the trades. He's a steam fitter. That industry, their knees were cut out from under them because of that. It's time that we wake up and let's continue to raise these issues and demand these policy changes. Once again, I want to thank the Congresswoman and everybody that came out, because this is near and dear to our heart. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes the press conference. Just want to thank our local veterans for their service, Dan Venezia, Lee Cavino, and also acknowledge Dr. Eugenie Koshara, who is dealing with some personal issues in terms of his relatives who are making their way, hopefully, God willing, to the United States from that Armenia. They finally got to Armenia safely, and we're praying for them. Does anyone have any questions now? You're all set? You're all good now? Okay, it's okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. It's okay. I didn't realize you weren't signed for sure.